everyone. Welcome to Shelf Space with Kino Lorber, where we talk about all things physical media with Kino Lorber's head of acquisitions, Frank Tarzi. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Howard S. Berger. He's a filmmaker, film historian, and commentator who's worked on countless Kino Lorber releases. Howard and Frank will also be answering your audience questions, so thank you to everyone who submitted a question ahead of time. If you would like to submit a question for a future episode, be sure to sign up for our newsletter to get on the email list, and be sure to subscribe to the Kino Lorber YouTube channel. If you have any customer service questions, please submit those at the link in the video description below. Thank you for joining us today, Howard.
Thank you. This is great.
Hey, Howard, how are you?
Hey, Frank.
So we'd like to start every episode by asking, how do you two know each other and how have you worked together? I'm sure you have a long history.
Well, it all started with Nathaniel Thompson. Man, he was introduced to me. Walt Olson from Scorpion was friends with Nathaniel, so that was the first. And then eventually, when I started, in the beginning, when I was at Olive, we were not doing too many commentaries, especially not historian commentaries. And then when I came to Studio Classics, I was in a very big rush to get films out as fast as possible. So when we released our first batch of films from MGM, we barely did any extras. We just ported over the previous extras. And then when we did the Fox deal, I think The Jury was the first film that I reached out to Nathaniel, and then he had Steve Mitchell come in, and then eventually it was the three guys, so as I call you guys, the three amigos. Yeah, I still don't know who's Chevy Chase and who's Martin Short, who's Steve Martin, but you guys could fight on that yourself. So.
Nathaniel's Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
I think it's, as of May, I think it's 11 years.
Yeah,
now.
It's been a long time, and you guys have probably done more commentaries for me between the three of you, because there's been solos and there's been duos and all of that than probably anybody else. I think you guys are probably number one. I mean, David Delvell has done a lot. Lee Gambin used to do a lot before he passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And,
do you know how many approximately you've done for Kino Lorber?
it's over 100, I'm pretty sure.
It's over 100. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm a hair over 200 total, with the other.
And I think between the three of you, it's probably going to be over 300 titles, I would say, easily. Because there's titles that I know that Nathaniel did only with you, and then there's stuff that Steve did by himself, or Nathaniel and Steve did together. And then there's times that you got like Troy Howarth or somebody else to join you, so.
Yeah, or Steve, also. I mean, I've branched off with Steve sometimes, and
No, you and Steve have done a lot of solos together. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've just started doing more solo stuff. I think I can't remember if the first was Fright, my first solo one. I think
It may have been.
Yeah, and that's but I mean, when I saw. Thank goodness for Facebook, where they remind you of stuff. Little reminders of your life. I didn't know until I heard you talk to Nathaniel. I had no idea that I was like this. Either was I the first recording wise? It may have been that Nathaniel and I did Trouble Man. But I don't know when what the first one was released. It might have been the one with.
That and The Jury.
I think The Jury might have came out after. Might have been released after Trouble Man.
Yeah, probably like a month after, or even around the same time. Because those were the Fox titles. That was all from the part of the Fox deal. So.
I had no idea. I thought Nathaniel had been recording for Kino for a long time. I somehow got that in my head, so I had no idea. And he. I only just found out the other day because Nathaniel said, that was my first. I'm like, that was your first? What? I had no idea. I thought it was in the, I know he had done a lot previously, like with for Image and things like that.
Studio Classics started in July of 2014. And I think those were in 2015. So it makes sense because, like I told you, the first year I barely did any extras, or at least any new extras. And at Olive, I used to send Nathaniel discs for review and stuff like that, He asked for Henny Calder and a couple other ones. So
Right.
So was Nathaniel first? Was there a order? It was Nathaniel, and then Howard, and then Steve?
yeah, I think
For
Howard
me,
and
it
Steve
was,
happened
yeah.
right around the same time. So I think he did
Yeah.
Trouble Men with Howard first, and then I think like 2 weeks later he did, I the Jury with Steve, and then eventually it was the three of them together. Then
Long Riders, I think, was the first one together, all of us, and then
All
in
three,
close
yeah.
succession, it was like Canon for Cordoba, and I think that's and then after that, it was just like all right.
Yeah,
I,
there was a
I
lot-
only
then-
had one. I only had one thing with any new people is I tell them, I say I respect everything they say. I can jump on anything. I can work off of anything, but I didn't know Steve. I didn't meet. I heard about him through Nathaniel for a while, and then when I met him, I just said the only thing that I care about is if you have anything negative to say about the movie, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I walk but he didn't. No. But I say it to everybody. It wasn't like I was singling him out. But I
no,
just
we and I appreciate that because we stopped working with certain people when they started doing that. Where they were making fun of the movie and stuff like that. I remember there was a commentary that we acquired from Twilight Time through MGM for Remo Williams, and it starts with, the music score is the only thing I like. The only thing I like about this movie.
Oh.
And here's the only thing I like about the movie, and it was a music score in the opening. I'm like, why are you doing a commentary? It's like, who cares about your opinion? And to me, it's all about
basically.
like I always tell people, you're not doing us a favor. If you're not a fan of the movie, don't just turn it down.
That's basically it for me. I never saw movies, that way. I always just wanted to understand what everyone involved was trying to do, and then you have the other layer, which is what they were up against, which is budget or producers or studio, any other interference, and then the last thing is like how I read it. Because that's all I care about is if I understand the movie. It's all since I was, and I'm literally since I was 9 months old.
You have the film school film student mentality, like what does this mean and what does that mean? But a lot of that, I think, especially with old school directors, it didn't mean anything. It was just a shot they put together.
It's a job. I mean, this is their job, which amazes me even more that sometimes it comes out with such vision to it, and so I just like that's where I'm at. I try and fill in the blanks with whatever the discussion is.
I don't listen to commentaries as much as I used to. I'm sorry, Alicia, but I just don't have the time. But when I was listening to them more often and stuff like that, I remember the one you guys did with for Superdome, and you kept on asking him, "What does this mean? What is that?" He was like,
on
"It's just a
purpose.
scene."
It was on purpose. It was on purpose.
Yeah.
He was such a delightful guy. I mean, I just saw. I mean, I talked to him recently. I saw him recently. Just saw him and his son recently. And they were always hoping for Raise the Titanic. He's 90 something, and he's totally lucid. Great, great stories, a million stories. But he's really unpretentious, and I loved that. But it was funny was I met him because I think Quentin had at his theater, the New Beverly, he had a Jerry Jameson triple feature, and he had asked me to write a thing about it, the triple feature, and I'm like, oh, I'm a big, because he knew I was a big Jerry Jameson fan from Facebook. He knew, so I wrote this thing. It was like a guide to Jerry Jameson. It was all auteurist. It's called it was actually called the Accidental Auteurist for the New Bev website. And I just went down the list of it was like he kept making the same movie again and again and again. I'm like, and it comes down to accepting those scripts. And then he also wrote, so very easy for him to tailor anything that subject wise that he could understand directing somebody with those themes or whatever. But it's a job. And TV movies especially, what are they? They get 8 days to direct them?
We interviewed John Llewellyn Moxey, and he talked about how he started, in England, but when he came and started doing all these TV movies, it was just like, it's just, that's what they did. Was they made the films. They didn't really think too much about it as much as that thing the fans do, because Moxey is such a great director. He did so many really great TV movies. But the thing is that for him it was just a job. It was like I'm hired to
That's
make a
all it
movie.
is.
I'm hired to direct an episode of Kojak. It's not like
I know
it wasn't.
but you grow up with it. You're literally growing up with it. I'm like, again, like I was watching this crap from my playpen in the basement of our building in Queens. My mom just would just plot me down. They had a little TV set in this grungy, gross, dark basement. I remember that. I don't even think I was a year old, but she said hooked. Couldn't get. I would only then I would start to try and talk nonstop. So the only way to shut me up was to turn the TV on. I'd be suddenly I'm plugged in. It would shut me up successfully.
Where in Queens were you from?
Off Kissimmee Boulevard. That's
oh my God! I grew up in Flushing.
That's basically that's it. Flushing.
Yeah,
there was a
was right
Gristedes, I think. Do you remember a Gristedes?
Yeah.
That was I know, because I was in my little bassinet, and my
we say casino, but
me.
you say casino, whatever. So
casino. Well, we moved
yeah.
We weren't even. I was alive not even a year, and they moved to Long Island, so I have the Long Island thing.
Yeah, and it's funny that Steve was also from that area too, Steve Mitchell. Yeah. So,
Oh, interesting. I was actually listening to an interview with, I think you did an interview with Disconnected about your childhood and how much your parents were part of why you love films. And it was actually very touching. I was almost in tears when you were telling that story about your dad taking you to, I forget which horror movie.
Twitch of the Death Nerve. Twitch of the Bay of Blood and the Creeping Flesh.
That's amazing that they were just so supportive. They were so open-minded.
My dad was sugar. I can't even believe it's 10 years that he's gone, or 11 years that he's gone. That is between him and my mom. And I didn't, how stupid I was. I just never realized that I was more fortunate in terms of who I got as parents than most people. So I do, believe me, my heart goes out to you. Truly, you can have some of mine, but they're gone now. But I can only share stories. I can't share them anymore. But
well, I love my parents. My dad passed away in 2000. Christmas of 2023, and my mom is, thank God, she's still around. So no, I also had great parents, and my dad was a big movie fan. So
wow.
Yeah. Do you guys remember any movies that they introduced you to that really became defining movies of your life?
I remember the first movie they took me to. I remember perfectly. It was years after it originally had come out, but it was The Love Bug, and I was 4 years old. That's one of my earliest.
Yeah, we had a big
memories.
Love Bug. Yeah, we had an opening day Love Bug, and the line. It was the first time I knew about a line to get into a movie.
Yeah.
On a hot summer day. It was opening day, and we were there, and it was I remember it was broiling, unless that was a little later, but that was a wonderful thing. But my mom didn't care. My mom was the one. My dad was working 200 hours a week. My mom was the one who would mainly get me during the week, every other day. We had nothing. It was Long Island. It was rural. It was nothing. There was nothing there but trees. There was nothing. Fields and trees. And we had one really cool movie theater and a mall that was going up with eventually a cool movie theater. But this one movie theater was so perfect. My mom had been a school teacher, so she had a completely open mind, totally open. She was whatever they want. But my oldest sister was Krell. I mean, she was brilliant. She is still brilliant. And her bookshelf had all these movie tie-ins, but they were literature, but movie tie-in books. She didn't buy it for that. She bought it for the book. And there was John Barth's End of the Road. Now, I had to have been 4.5 years old when this thing came out, but it was because my sister had the book, and I wanted to show my sister how worldly I was. But it was directed by someone who eventually would become my mentor in college, Aram Avakian, and he was a brilliant editor, and he had he chose this to be his first directorial feature. And Gordon Willis, I believe it was his first movie as cinematographer, and just a brilliant movie. But it was based on a book by John Barth. And my mom took me. She was all. It was rated X, 1969 X, which isn't porn, but it was pretty rough. I mean, pretty rougher than most than R-rated movies. It's not just someone saying fuck and then getting the R rating. This was and I remember the poor guy. It was an empty theater in the afternoon at this neighborhood theater in the summer, and the guy looked. He was like sweating, like. I was tiny. I was always tiny. He's like, I can't. If someone, finds you in the theater, I will be fired. They tell you, they schooled us. So my mom tells him, of course, showing me off. She goes, look, he asked to see this. So if he's old enough to ask to see this, doesn't that make him old enough to see it? And the guy looked like he was ready to just collapse. Like he just, don't make me think. He let us in. He goes, all right, just don't tell anybody. Okay, say, but it was great because no concessions was fresh. No, there was nobody else to fight over concessions. I was getting hot popcorn, and it went over. She just said, look, I'm here. I'll take him out if there's something that of course, I wonder why she didn't take me out because there's a lot in that movie that I was just like, holy cow. But I had to have been like 4.5, or almost 5. I'm pretty sure it was like 4.5. I'm late December, so I was, I'm always like the youngest of it. When I was in school, she put me in school like a year earlier. So everyone that I grew up with is always like a year older than me. It was really embarrassing. I hid it. Like I didn't tell anybody because I felt inferior, little kid. But that was my mom. So my grandmother who lived with us, she was like first generation European, and so she had, nothing was taboo. I mean, there was nothing, and it was all discussed. I had tons of nightmares, though, from like horror movies. Night of the Living Dead profoundly destroyed me, and of course, I had to go see it when I was probably about the same age, like around 4.5. It was playing at a matinee, and I had asked. I would wake them up at like 3 a.m. crying sometimes. I was just, because I was also an idiot. So I also had, no one's going to argue that. I would have the horror magazine. So I would cut them up and I had like 400 pictures of like Night of the Living Dead on my wall. And I didn't even know what living was yet, let alone living dead. So that was like, holy cow. And I don't know, but I guess the whole process was trying to get me used to the difference between fantasy and reality when I realized what I was doing, because I obsessed on film. So New York, the arts and leisure section of the New York Times had full posters. They were printing black and white, but full posters. And then eventually my middle sister, was pretty hip. Like throughout my life, she was really pretty cool. She's like 4 years older than me, but she's really sweet. She subscribed me to Variety. I didn't know. I didn't ask her, but she knew that might be interesting to my brother, which came with full color ads and posters and slicks. And oh my God, I still have them. I collected, I ended up collecting that stuff. But she was like, so my whole family was like rotating, whoever's old enough to get into whatever movie. I mean, like we saw Ken Russell's The Devils, completely cut. I mean, I didn't know. The Boyfriend, his movies. So I got raised. They really, my dad, he didn't know movies. Just he liked certain things, but he wanted to be with the kids. He just, wasn't around. He was working, so he just wanted, family time. But my mom was smart. My mom was movie smart. Like she was raised, so she just didn't think I'd be interested in just movies in general. But I had, like everybody, you probably talk to, most everybody just was raised on like probably horror movies when they were a little kid, because that's what was the flypaper for most of us.
Yeah, the crazy thing is that parents were very old-fashioned, so violence, no problem. I could see heads being chopped off and legs being cut off, but as soon as there's a nipple on the screen, oh my god!
Oh,
Oh
you should
my
have
God.
called me. My mom.
So I couldn't see anything that had if HBO said nudity or brief nudity, it was like they had to watch it first to tell me look away during that scene or whatever.
That's hard.
And then I'm
cheese,
watching
my friend.
what was that movie, Survive, where people
yeah.
plane crash,
See,
people
that's
are
the
eating
one-
people and all that stuff.
perfect example of me
Yeah,
waking up at 4
cannibalism
in the
and all
morning.
that. It was like, yeah, that's okay. Watch that at 3:00 in the morning, but I never got scared. That's another thing. I would watch horror films and get scared for the next. Well, if I watched it in the apartment by myself, I have to go throw away the trash or something. I was probably a little scared, but it would not stay with me. My younger brother was the one that would get scared, and then he would like crawl into bed with me because he just was he just couldn't.
I
deal
don't
with it.
blame him.
Yeah. So, but I never really got scared. I wouldn't carry it on, But I was more of an action fan, westerns and war films and cop movies and stuff like that. So I would be interested in watching The Devils or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
But back when I was a kid, that was a cornucopia. I mean, like the action films, because not only were there hundreds and hundreds of releases in theaters, because they were like, right? I mean, you have the first release, and then you have like the second tier release, and then you have the double feature repackagings, and then the triple feature repackaging, and it was just hard to believe in such a small rural area. As the theaters grew up, we had probably about a good 8 or 9 theaters initially by like 1972. It blossomed after that, so we had a lot. They kept paving streets, your roads. We kept getting more roads.
Flushing had the classic theaters. They had the RKO Keith that had opened in the 20s.
Right.
That was 3 screens, originally 1 screen. RKO Prospect was a couple of blocks from that. That was 3 screens, and that usually. So every Saturday, I would just pay for 1 movie and see all 3. I would just sneak into the other ones. And then we had the Quartet, which was 4 screens. So Flushing was great. And then eventually when I started going to Manhattan, that was insane. And at 10-block radius, we had like 50 theaters, so.
Amazing. I don't know what I would have done, I barely knew what to do, in Long Island, I couldn't go anywhere. I was at the behest of someone with a car. That's all. I couldn't do it alone. But I was dropped off a lot alone. As soon as I hit like maybe 6 years old, I mean, it was that just. And don't forget, like mainly we didn't have triplexes at all. It was literally back in the day where it sounds like horse-drawn carriage. It was literally like 1 theater, 1 movie, maybe a double feature. Then once the college started, we had a big college, Stony Brook University, build up next, near our home, and that started. They opened a mall, they opened theaters, a lot of theaters, small. They paved more roads, more highways, so we had access. It was just rolling fields, and you knew where you could go. And then they opened it up for us, so now all these little towns started showing great things. And I learned Syosset. Do you know Syosset? I mean, that's like near, like really west towards the city at this point. And that was where we had. On one side of the street, it was like a 45-minute drive. It felt like it was a big event going. But you'd have the Syosset Theater, which was a 70-millimeter screen, which showed things I remember seeing Funny Girl when it first came out. Massive. I mean, like for a little peewee, that screen was huge. And across the street was even better. It was the 160, I think it was called. It was a curved, or the 150. It was a curved screen. And that's where they showed epics, like they would re-release like How the West Was Won in Cinerama, all the Cinerama movies. This is Cinerama. We got to see all that stuff projected on like the largest screen imaginable. But we also saw, and this is where we were the only ones on this massive line with children. We saw Straw Dogs. Clockwork Orange, when it was X, again, my poor dad had no clue. He didn't know about ratings, and but I think his innocence like sold it, and they wanted to keep the line moving. So we were so tiny, but they always use the handout, I'll take them out. I'll take them out if nothing. But that was a really cool theater, and that's later where I saw a film that me and Nathaniel did for you, Luna, Bertolucci's Luna, because I was one side of the street in the 70 millimeter. Me and my dad, we were sold out of Apocalypse Now on first run. So we were there. It was a 45-minute ride. So what's across the street? Oh, Luna. And my dad, when the plot of Luna started to unfold, my dad was like, oh, I think that's incest. It's like, what's
well,
interesting.
I would be honest. I don't think that's a movie a kid should watch. But whatever. You turned out okay.
My kids will watch anything. I'm totally. I can't give them anything but the life I had. So I was like,
no, I couldn't. I couldn't let a little kid watch Luna or The Devils or something like that. I just don't think that their minds are. But like I said, it depends on the person.
I think I was 8 years old when I watched Natural Born Killers, or maybe between 8 and 10. I was very young when I watched that.
You're too young to watch that.
And David Lynch's Twin Peaks Fire Walks with Me. I was also 8 years old.
Well, it's just a lot of explaining. That means you're making your parents work. That's okay. I mean, I think that's fine.
It's like they let me watch.
Did you enjoy them? Do you remember enjoying them?
I did. Yeah. Well,
Same.
Twin Peaks Fire Walks with Me kind of freaked me out a little bit, but I remember really liking Natural Born Killers. I don't know what that says about me as a kid, but just wanted to go back to the commentary stuff. So it sounds like you grew up on film, and it was kind of shaping, it put you on this path that led you to being a film historian and expert and commentator. Can you tell us a little bit about your process when you approach, a film what kind of research goes into that? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I never asked Nathaniel or anyone. I never asked anybody what they did. It's interesting. I watched the movie, like, if I haven't seen it already, the movies that usually were picked, I've encountered at some point in my life ahead of time. But it usually becomes the thing with, I look at who directed it first, I look at who wrote it second, and then who shot it, and who edited it. And those are like, the big things. The names. I want to see the names. If I'm not familiar with the whole thing, I want to again learn about who's doing it before I don't think of opinion involved. I could personally, have a list of issues why I would have done it differently or something, but who cares?
I mean, I don't even care.
A commentator's not a critic. There's some overlap between film commentator and film critic, but I feel like you have to just be a lot more curious about the film and not.
I would never be a critic. I would never be a critic.
It's a totally different role. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe in criticism. It's like, if I don't like it, then I'll wait until I like it, or then I'm qualified to make a judgment. But why would I judge? It makes no sense. I'm depriving myself at that point, let alone the people I have to talk to. But I like watching. I don't even know what it is, but I really just like watching a film, seeing on how many levels I can notice them working at. Like we did it, Nathaniel and I. Thank goodness you gave it to us. It was Day of the Dolphin by Mike Nichols. It was another one of those summer things. My dad took me and my sister, and I cried my eyes out of that. Just hearing and it's what it was this scientist who's found a way to communicate with dolphins in a manner that gives potential for opportunity of understanding other species, and at the time it was Vietnam was still going on, and there was a lot of paranoia still, those were big movies were coming out now that were totally, anti-government and kind of prophetic in a way, or just it was always there, and they uncover that there's possibly a group that wants to access these intelligent dolphins, these communicative dolphins, and use them for assassination purposes. So where they can go where no one is even looking at. So it was a French novel by Robert Merle, and originally I believe it was a project that Roman Polanski was going to do before. But once his wife was murdered, a lot of his had a ripple effect of what he was doing after that. So there's sequences in the movie where Buck Henry. If you know Buck Henry, he was a comedian, director, co-creator with Mel Brooks of the TV show Get Smart. He was a satirist, very funny guy, brilliant guy, and a really nice guy too. I met him on Facebook, and then we became friends because when you find out you live near him, you push yourself in the world. But he was such a cool guy. He was the one who was doing the voice of the really cute little voice of the dolphins. I'm here believing for 40 years they actually got the dolphin to do it. I don't. Why would I want to know anything else? But I'd be crying. And Nathaniel's like, you got to brace yourself because I know you're gonna cry you're going to cry in the commentary. And I'm like, I don't know. We're doing commentary. I cry. I had to tell her I cried during the I warned the audience, okay, I fucked up. I'm crying. All right, hell with all of you. I'm like, what am I going to do? You can't run away when you're stuck. But it was such a cool movie. And while I'm watching it, I never noticed it when I saw it, like in the theater. I saw it even on whatever Laserdisc or whatever VHS. Never noticed, but I started looking, because Mike Nichols, he was very stylish in his first decade of movies, and that stopped. He just changed his whole thing. He had, I think, manic depression and the medications that he was taking. It actually, I think, changed his style, starting in the mid-'70s after a really funny movie called The Fortune, which was sort of a disaster, for them. Even though it was a good movie, it was not. It was chopped up and it was whatever, but it still impressed. Day of the Dolphin, I started noticing is once I started, hearing these terrible reviews of it suddenly, and I'm like, who doesn't like Day of the Dolphin? Are they insane? It's a classic film. I started noticing that, Mike Nichols shot really, really wide screen. Like he shot, I think it was Panavision, but it was like a really full, wide use of the frame that, really would destroy it once it goes to TV. That's not what the plan was back then, But it was, I started noticing that he was doing things that I saw anyway, that he was doing things that basically said that he was aware that this is a movie and everything that was that we were applying to the story and the characters also worked as the characters represented him, his crew, and working with producers. The villains were the studio system. And I watched when I suddenly saw it. I'm like, because now, do a commentary, I'm looking, right? So that's when I went off and I just sat through it every 10 minutes, making my notes, showing the frame, trying to figure out the way the frame reflects. And that's just what I do now with everything. I was, and then there's the cross-referential, what could have inspired them or what was like-minded. Mentioned it before, the first one I did with Steve and Nathaniel together, I think, pretty sure it was The Long Riders by Walter Hill. And that was another one. I had just watched Ned Kelly by Tony Richardson, Vanessa Redgrave's ex-husband, and I'm like, that was with Mick Jagger. It was a 1970 sort of Australian Western, and I'm like, God, did Walter Hill just just watch that movie looped for. So I started seeing not just, connectivity between the two films, just the way they look, but also their presentation of themes like, mythologizing people. What's the difference between the myth and a person, and what are the gosh darn, if that's not what both movies were like, just about. So I really, that's what I enjoy. And that's why I like, when you have Nathaniel, who comes from another total, a million angles, and Steve, who, he has his totally separate way, but you're not burdened to like carry a whole load. You are constantly discussing with other people who are not there to opinionate against you. They're there to add to the kitty. And when you have three people coming at it from three different observational directions, that to me is just, fascinating. Oh yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think any of us even think that way. I mean, it's like either, I think we just enjoy being, we enjoy doing it, I mean, life's tough enough as it is, but this is, we're very fortunate, that we have the frequency of being able to do these, because I think that's, who has time to get to three people get together unless, we have to do this, we make it a thing, and we have a couple coming up, but I don't discuss it until I see the press release on it. But we have a couple coming up where it's just going to be us in a room for, 12 hours coming up, in another week or so. So I'm like, it's like we use that as almost like, what do they say in the choir boys? Choir practice. It's like it's almost a release, till you look forward to this. This is our night out. I don't go anywhere. I'm slave to my desk at this point. Thank goodness. I just, hope it gets more thing. I still hope that Kino goes back to doing, more video essays as well. That was the one he gave. Frank gave me great, the best two chances to do something. It was Plain Misty for me. It certainly got some of the best reviews of anything I'd ever been involved with. I mean, and plus the rest of the disc was superlative as well. I mean, the extras. It's always good when the other extras have electricity of their own. And you have Tim Lucas on commentary, and you had a lot of really cool. It was just a great. I think Laurent Bozereau, also had a documentary by him. For the really wonderful collection of stuff. But I was again sick. I ended up also I was in the hospital in the right trying to get it done, and I was editing in ICU. I was cutting, and I had this whole like 20-minute sequence about Hitchcock, and Frank's like, "No, you gotta cut that out. We don't have the rights. We don't have the rights for the Hitchcock stuff." I'm like, "What?" So I had to go back in ICU, and the doctors were like, "You really should, grab some sleep." And I go, no. I'm like, I can't. No, please, no. Like, don't be mommy. Don't mommy me. I gotta go. But I had to figure out not just to get how to convey the same like sort of mind bending thing I was going through while discovering all this stuff, and that I work with a friend of mine, Kevin Marr, who was again like known him for.
Is that who you do
45 years.
Destructible Man with?
Yeah,
so I wanted to
exactly.
ask you two more things before we move to audience questions. One was
Sure.
about that blog, and the other was about your own films. You're also a filmmaker, and I wanted to just ask what kinds of stories you're drawn to, and what's your experience been like as a filmmaker on top of a commentator, and do you learn anything from doing commentaries that you can apply to filmmaking?
I hope so. I mean, some cool shit. Finding out some nifty stuff. I'm able to translate it into my own stuff. I don't know if I could say. me and Kevin and some friends of mine as a collaborator, Matthew Howe, another person we all kind of went to film school with, back in the day when, I think there was just VHS still. But it was, I'm not so fond of showing up early to a set. I'll be honest, I'm not so in love with production or whatever. But at the end of a production, if you've gotten everything you wanted and you had really good people, which was that's been my experience so far, thank goodness, then it's great. But yeah, definitely, you want to make the movie as fun as possible, as smart. You want to have a little origami, to it, where you can flip it and extend it, and, you don't want to just do a one note thing. So I just like things that are just ridiculously, obscenely complex, and at the same time you can give a elevator pitch, like a one sentence elevator pitch, and then that I like. That if Frank probably knows, he's probably constantly second guessing what I might not argue doing as a commentary. Is I like the ones that just have so many different layers of meat on the bone that people don't notice it unless you mention it, and I like that. I like I've always enjoyed.
Well, you also I think you look for them too. So that's another thing. Is that I think it's the way you
Birds
watch
of Prey. You gave that to somebody else. Birds of Prey.
You watch the film and you're looking for things. So yeah. Listen, I appreciate that, but then there's. I personally, when I notice something that's obvious. But when it's not something that's obvious, then, this was the issue I had a lot of times from film school, and I would get on into arguments from the professors and stuff like that, because this is their idea of what the scene was about, and this is their idea of what this. I'm like, no, that's bullshit. That's your perception of that scene, and I completely see it differently. And when I hear filmmakers kind of defend that, I appreciate that, because. A lot of times they ask David Lynch, like, what did you mean by this? He goes, what did you see? And
that's why I appreciate that exactly.
Yeah, his whole thing was for everybody to get something else out of it. It's the person watching it is what's important. It's not what I was trying to do. And the same thing with, like, I've heard Tarantino kind of mention that also. So I personally, I watch film, like, when it's like without a doubt, a scene is completely dedicated to another movie, that's noticeable. Yeah, that's one thing. But then there's a lot of other times where I think if you went in there and looked for things, you would always find things. So I think you enjoyed, really, when you're watching films, you enjoy doing that. While I'm kind of like trying to relax and just enjoy the film.
I'm almost never there for the movie. First off, I'm almost never. Not anymore.
For me, it's all about.
I know. It's really true. I don't.
That's why I cannot deal with a lot of foreign films and a lot of pretentious stuff anymore. I'm getting too old for that stuff. So a lot of the things that I had patience watching when I was in my 20s and 30s, I can't do that no more. Yeah. You're a pretentious prick. Go. You made this film for yourself. You have no respect for the audience, So I'm not going to watch your films no more. And there's a lot of major foreign directors that I just cannot stand, because they continue to do that, And
I was going to say the ones that are alive, I think, are the ones that I think I agree with you on. It's the ones that are gone. They wrote they wrote language, so I'm like, I can argue.
Film for me is like. And when it comes to it, it's really like escapism. It's something to get my mind off all the garbage that's going on in the world and in my life and stuff like that. So, yeah, there are times you watch a film that has, historical and stuff like that. Those films are different than what. But when you're watching something like, whatever, Where Eagles Dare or something like that, you're not thinking about, that makes sense and this doesn't make sense. And whatever.
That director proposed to my mom, by the way.
Stop it. That's amazing.
My God. I'm like, well, what happened? Well, you wouldn't have been here, so what do you care?
He was an actor-director.
He was an actor, and he had like the most, I think, the thickest Bronx accent imaginable, But she said he was a nice guy.
He directed some good movies. Kelly's Heroes is really good too, and
great movie.
Some other ones too. So
XYZ, Night. What's the one? scary movie with Elizabeth Taylor, Night Watch. He doesn't. I never saw High Road to China. I think that was like he came back for that. Or
yeah,
something.
I saw that. It was fun. It was okay. It was trying to be. It was like Tom Selleck regretted turning down Raiders of the Lost Ark, so he tried to make a version of that, but it wasn't even anything close to it.
I love that film is different things for each of you. Frank, for you, it's escapism. Howard, for you, it's almost like an excavation site. You love to just, it's something, it's like a mystery to solve.
It's become more and more escapism for me now, Alicia. It wasn't always that. I think now I just don't have patience. I don't have patience for pretentious stuff and hidden messages and all that crap. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Good for you. I'm bored. I'm going to change the channel. So
that's fair, man. It's your life, you only get one shot. So I hear you.
Well, before we move to audience questions, I do want to ask about Deconstructible Man. That's what it's called, right? Yeah. Is it still going on? Is it still?
Oh yeah. In fact, poor Frank. I don't know who's listening to the commentaries when I hand them in. The last couple that I did were both Destructible Man deconstructions within the thing. The Man Upstairs, the Don Chaffee movie with Richard Attenborough, and The Island. Michael Ritchie's The Island. What Destructible Man is Kevin and I, we used to watch movies, and just superficially, we would just laugh our heads off, and every time we would see a dummy death, which was like when you replace an actor with a special effects dummy in a violent scene. Doesn't have to be death, but it most often is. And we would just compile them and just go, oh my god, we had a registry of films with like dummy deaths in it, which were just hilarious, because sometimes you would notice very obviously like a person turning into a sack of laundry with no joints and falling through the like just
being tossed out of a building or whatever.
Oh yeah, I mean they get creamed in a million different ways, thankfully, but then suddenly, one day, because Kevin would come over, he does like museum installations and stuff. So he would just, if he had like a month free, he literally would come to my place, stay with me for like a month, and we would just watch movies until we passed out, wake up, get food, watch more movies until we passed out. And this is like for like a month if we had the chance. Any time we would do this. So we had a pretty thick registry of this effect for a while. We started noticing, like, the fact that, well, okay, it's an abstraction. People are you have to believe this. They want you to not notice that this effect is happening. They want you to see a character dying. The only purpose of a movie is so you do, like, Premium Magazine really kind of ruined this whole thing. You're supposed to go to a movie, you're supposed to experience the movie like it's real. And you're supposed to react to it like it's real. And fall into, however successfully for you, the skills of the director and crew manage to pull off this delusional environment, this thing that's absolutely not real at all in any shape or form. It's not real. It takes months to do. It takes seconds to watch. It makes no sense that it's playing out like that. To me, it's like a gift. But you start to realize what a dummy death is, and that is, it's an illusion, which is what cinema is. It's a deception, which is what cinema is. It's a transformation, because whether you like it or not, if you see your character, not the actor, but the character transform into something inanimate in your visual plate, it's not, you're suddenly then like, wait, this is a movie. Oh, there's a reality issue here. So then you start looking, so all these things, there's a transformation. Again, whether you like it or not, that's the nature of the medium. Something's happening and you're seeing it, or you're not noticing it. You're just noticing the character dying or getting badly hurt, because some people don't notice it. So we started from there, and then we started realizing that there's like, all of a sudden you're going to start to see in every single one of these movies, every single one, even if it's just one dummy death for half a second, you're going to see mirrors, photographs, sculptures, paintings, drawings, shadows, and it just goes on and on and on, no matter what. It doesn't have to be like a expressionist film or a big director. It is tapped into the crew's subconscious of, I think, not consciously, but they, in the amoebic group that is forming this reality, they think that they, in the back in their head, that everything has to work. And to do that, suddenly it untaps this font of like-minded expression. It's storytelling. It's just how you safely save an actor's life when you're making the movie. But really what's happening is you start to watch it and you start seeing all these, like a shell game. So like the production designers and the director, and they're all doing this shell game of distractions, of abstractions of people throughout the movie, nonstop. And I'm guaranteeing you will start to watch a movie and you'll start to see this and you'll go, okay, when's the dummy death coming? And more often than not, you will get one. The one time, and again, I thank Frank for giving us this one, was Mirage, Edward Dmytryk, who totally has put dummy deaths in his movies from day one. And Mirage had no dummy death, but it was already in his language, his style. So maybe the producers or the studio said, no graphic violence on this one. Just make this a Hitchcockian, a clean Hitchcockian thrill, old-fashioned thriller. And he had Peter Stone writing the script, who did Charade. So it was, but it's all there, all the visual clues and all the thematic clues. And this is the other half, is the themes. You're going to have themes about identity, because look at what you're expecting an audience to do. It's a character who's losing his humanity, and then so identity, transformation, big, especially if a character has an arc, big, even in a character arc, something amazingly cruel and changes his whole, he's a different person, or the group of people change by the end. You'll start seeing all these themes and visual clues. So that's what we started to see. And, we have a registry that's in the thousands. So, my God. But it's there. Then I found out, I just did a little, just to tie it up, I did a little, because we want to make either a show out of this, or we want to do, I had a blog, but we got entrenched in tons of work. So we couldn't really keep up the blog. We did it this way, extended it with these projects. But I found out that historically, as far as I could find, the first edit in a motion picture was a decapitation, and it was a dummy death. And the movie was 56 seconds long, and it was like in the late 1800s, and so it's in the genetics, the DNA of filmmaking, and that's why by the time you're getting Dmytryk's Mirage, he doesn't even have to do that effect anymore. It's in the personal storytelling. It's in the way he's already adopted his themes and his things. And there's so many directors that.
Yeah, but Howard, sometimes it's just because it's the cheapest way to do something.
It's not. Absolutely, it is. I don't believe it's a conscious thing at all.
When I watch a movie like that, and I see something that's obviously, when Adventures of Captain Marvel picks up a guy and throws him off a cliff, that's like a dummy that got just thrown off the cliff. But
watch it again.
For me, I could watch it and I could just move on to the next thing.
That's why it's designed. It's designed like that. It is unconscious application of skill.
Yeah. So for me, it's never been an issue of like even in a newer film, sometimes there's certain things that is going to be done to a body that they cannot use a human being to do it. I know you asked me about Dragged Across Concrete. His films have them.
Right.
But that's because when you're stomping on a guy's head and pummeling it, you cannot have a real person there. So
it's a practical effect.
Yeah.
There's no. Yeah. I do not believe there is 1 second of a conscious decision out of a pretension to do this. It's there. And that's what makes it a phenomenon. And that's, I think you're not going to find many other types of medium that can allow this. It is simply just storytelling. It's a way that people knew how to make you, but you start to think for a second, right? It's like, oh, I have to believe this movie is real because otherwise I'm not going to enjoy the movie.
Yeah, but
then you go,
just like
you notice one thing, which is a doorway to like psychological hell for like anyone who's even remotely, what is it called, attention deficit. They're going to find the one thing, and they're like, oh my god. It's weird. It took a long time for them to actually have stuntmen jump off buildings, and Sharky's Machine was one of the first ones that I could remember where you could see that's a real person jumping off, like a maniac jumping off a building. And then there's films. I'm forgetting that film with Lou Diamond Phillips where the devil takes over the body of. The First Power.
Yeah, The First Power has that great scene where he just walks off the building. And the stuntman that did that, we interviewed the lead villain, and he told a story about how when he was standing down there waiting for the guy to do to the scene, because he just walks off the building and lands on the ground. And he said there was a girl standing with like a tarp, and I was like, "What are you doing here?" She was like, "Oh, I'm his girlfriend." And he said, "Just in case it doesn't go right, to cover up my body." Right. And that is insane when you think about that. Now everything is now green screen and CGI.
Yeah.
But you still have people like Tom Cruise who's crazy enough to do crazy stunts, you know? And it's always, And Jackie Chan did all his own stunts for a long, long time.
Crazy man.
So I think it was most of the time when dummies were used is mainly because there was no human being that was willing to do that.
And that's why I love to corner certain directors and just ask them about how they tell, like you ask, like how. What do you apply? Where did you come from? Where did you see? How did you do this? And I don't ever let them know that I read their films because of a certain way of reading them. Why would I? I mean, they're not thinking like that. They're thinking, I have to get this film done. I have such and so many days. I have such and such. It's a job, and it's only a job. And some really care more. And I think thank them everything for the position to be able to have this as their job, Right. I don't think there's any conscious. It can't be. It's in the medium. It's in the what happens when you use a certain alphabet. That's just it. And you can only spell certain words. It could look infinite, but it's going to be it's a certain language, certain alphabet, and that's what you get. So I that's why I just love it. It opens up most films for me and most directors, because then you see what happens when they, like I said, with like Mirage, they're not allowed to play the game the way they know how to play it. We just did one film. It's not been announced, I don't think, so I can't say it. But Nathaniel and I just did, and there's dummy deaths from like minute one, and yet every single theme in the movie applies. It's just always the same thing. I mean, even if you took that one, the first one, like I said, the 53-second one, you're going to start to see this exact same thematic and the exact same thing. There's all sorts of bric-a-brac. Also, when you have things that are just, what is it called? Happenstance, like on your production, like. If you're like in this one, the very first movie, it's like I say, it's transformation. If you notice it's a dummy, and then it goes back to a human being or something after like a fall or something, then you notice it.
Yeah, and that 53-second movie was without a doubt very effective when it came out. When people saw that originally, they probably screamed like hell and said, "What the hell we just watched?" So it was really effective at that time. And I think when we watch old special effects, you watch a Ray Harryhausen thing now, it's ridiculous. It's a lot of fun to watch them, but you have to whenever people say, "Oh, this is really bad special effects," I'm like, no, you gotta let that go. Agree, yeah. And you still gotta watch the films and just buy into it. If you don't buy into that, if you don't buy into that it's like a fantasy and it was done with miniatures and stuff like that, then you shouldn't watch the film, because you're gonna sit there and laugh at everything that you see there.
Yeah.
So just like people, I hate the fact when I go to Film Forum, a lot of these pretentious people that show up there, they laugh at the dialogue because it's a 1940s
I stopped
film.
a long time ago.
Yeah. I can't watch movies like that. If you're gonna watch, okay, the dialogue is aged. They spoke a different way. People don't speak like that anymore. But that doesn't mean that you got to sit there and laugh at it.
All right. Well, I think we need to move on to audience questions.
Sure.
Sorry to cut but I love that whole thing. And long live practical effects and long live stunt work.
Oh
yeah. But yes, let's move on to audience questions. The first question is from Alex Leon, and it's for both of you. What is a film that brings your spirits back up no matter how hard life is at the current moment? A film that brings light back into your life. If I haven't seen it, I'd love to. I can use some light right now. Oh, well, what are your recs?
Frank,
Howard, you go ahead. No, you go ahead.
There's a few, but the one that has survived, there's two, and it's childhood related totally. I mean, there's nothing. It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and the 1967 Casino Royale. Every second of those movies just inflate my heart with such never-ending joy. In fact, I know if I, like, usually before a flight, I know when Kevin Marr and I, we were asked to go show our film in Rome, in Italy. So we went for the festival. We'd never been to Italy, so we went. Before a flight, I figure if anything's going to happen, I want to get Casino Royale in one more time before I don't make it back home. So we agreed, like, immediately. I blew out the laser disc for Casino Royale. We watched Casino Royale. There's just something about it. I don't know. It must trigger a million thoughts in my head from when I saw it originally at the age of 3 or 4 years old. Both of them, and I saw them both in the theater at some point, and both were but those are, and of course because Mad World, nobody dies in it, I don't think, but. There's people transforming into dummies flying at climax is like 10 people in dummy form flying off their to their intended their deaths, but love dummies.
Michael Schlesinger, that was Michael Schlesinger's favorite movie of all time, who passed away, unfortunately. He's a good friend of mine and he passed away. It's a Mad World was his favorite movie, and I think 1, 2, 3 was his second favorite movie of all time. For me, I don't know if I have a film, but it is the films like Where Eagles Dare. I think I watch every 1 year or 2 years. I don't watch anything that often anymore. But I would say if a movie that I want to just smile and have a good time is the Pink Panther Strikes Again. Oh, yeah. I think it's the most insane of the series. It's Herbert Lom is at his best. I think Peter Sellers is incredible in that. I think that movie is like start to finish. The whole opening scene at the insane asylum and everything else. It's just an incredible movie. I think that it's a Mad World is a really good. Casino Royale it's such a crazy movie. It's so bad at the same time as being kind of fun and colorful and all these different directors. It's such a mess. But I could understand it's a Mad World. That's a good one. So. Yeah.
Well, the Mad World is great because he was. You think who's doing it? Stanley Kramer. So he just got off of Judgment at Nuremberg about the Holocaust trials and Inherit the Wind and all these heavy social. I mean, this was a heavy social movie too. I mean, that they didn't escape the satire, but he did that. I mean, and my sister, the oldest one, she saw it. She's like, why are you watching this most depressing movie I've ever seen in my life? Like, everyone's a loser and nothing happy happens. It's just absolute ghoulish misery. And I'm like, I think that's why it's funny. I couldn't explain it any other way. But she was like, oh, that's depressing.
I don't see it as depressing. I just think if you're rooting for the characters, they don't get anything in the end. But they're all still alive, and
but I think it was cool.
They all have a great laugh in the end when she falls down.
Exactly. It's the shifting of point of view of what is funny. I mean, that's brilliant. It's brilliant. It is. Oh.
Yeah, I love Amelie too.
Yeah.
Well, Amelie, Alicia, I agree with you so much about that film because that's like the first September 11 hit me so hard that it was like it was such a horrible thing to go through. And then I remember when I saw that film, and it just, I don't know, it made me like think positive things about life again. It was like the first movie that makes me do that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a beautiful film. It's like such a positive movie, it's like the music is incredible and the performances are amazing. So go ahead with the next question, Alicia. We've released everything we could. There's some titles with Fox that are right now under lock, with Disney, and then there's a couple of movies with Sony, and we have a hard time agreeing with them on mastering and who's going to pay for the mastering and all this other stuff. And so there's not much left. So unfortunately, I don't know. I don't see anything coming anytime soon. I think the one title that's available to us is Southwest Passage, but I don't know if we want to take a chance on that. The numbers for the last few releases have not been great. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be releasing anything anytime soon.
Oh, Money from Home, but that's
Money from Home is coming. He knows about Money from Home when he's asking. So, Money from Home is coming, and Hyperspace is coming, and the reconstruction of the bubble.
I didn't know about that.
That's coming. That's the, what do you call it?
That's good.
The longer cut is coming out. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not. It's just what do you call it? That has the opening overture and all that stuff added. So
cool. Unless he's thinking of the makeup guy. He's a great guy too. There's a couple on Universal that we're looking at either remastering. We're gonna take a look at the current masters, to see if we're happy with it or not. But most likely we're gonna do new transfers of those. I'm looking into more and more of those with hopefully with Paramount and MGM and everybody else. So the new MGM deal, which is right now moving at a very slow pace, we're gonna end up signing the renewals first, and then eventually we're gonna hopefully get the deal done. There's some really fun, kind of cool little collections that I've curated where I'm trying to put together, find ways to release smaller films that would have a hard time standing on their own, but would have that would do much better as a part of a collection. Yeah, just for a second, it cut out. He cut out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think my headphone fell off, but
you're back. You're back.
So I'm figuring out ways of like releasing some smaller titles, and just similar to what we've done with the Brit Noir films and Malfeasance, which we did with the films of Yves Boisset, and it's like those films on their own we cannot release, but I think if we put them in a collection, I think we have a better chance of them working for us. So.
You've been doing great with the French directors like Gilles Grandier, and I couldn't even be, couldn't thank you more for a lot of these. So many people don't know, they don't know this era of French directors, and they're mind-boggling. We're used to, everyone thinks they've seen it all already, and it's just an untapped source at this point. Really
but
wonderful.
most people have only seen the art house French films, and the only, I guess, kind of crime director that was well known was Jean-Pierre Melville.
Right.
The rest
exactly.
of these guys, I mean, Jacques Doré, and
Amazing.
these guys are incredible. They made some great movies. So I'm very happy to be releasing those. I wish there was, it only works when the studio is willing to work with us, where they willing to take a little bit less per film because they're going to be part of a box set. We're not gonna, so that's one thing we're gonna try to do more of. So, including comedies.
I don't think of it in terms of that. It's interesting you ask. I honestly have decided a long time ago that what I'm watching is the world that I'm watching. So if you're someone who talks like this, that's the character. So at some level, at some point, usually on rewatches, I'll have to start looking at it on a superficial level, more superficial level of like what is actually happening is that these are actors who've been asked to do. But that means I have to come in with a series of expectations for what I want them to give me, and I stopped doing that a long time ago. We're talking like probably by the 70s. I had to make decisions, and I was like, I just don't. After a while, it's just second nature. So it's honestly, I don't expect anything from anybody. And so watching everything on that level that you're asking, that kind of like, what do I look for? I'm not looking for anything. I'm really just waiting to be shown where I'm at. And that's the whole point. Like, and again, I have to say, I think because I was put in this position, and again, Frank, I thank you. I mean, there's nothing, the two words, I don't know the words that I can say this for, but honestly, it's, very thankful for this opportunity. I'm working a lot of times with other people, and I'm not going to interrupt them to tell them what they're thinking is wrong. They're just telling me what they're thinking. So I'm trying to appreciate it not just from what I experience, but I'm also learning, right? I'm trying to listen and learn at the same time. So my brain's not constantly contradicting other things. Critics I never had. Sorry, critics. I know you're probably very good people. I know a lot of great critics, but unless you're a filmmaker who personally needs to absorb your idea of perfection, that's really going to be tough. But that's how a lot of directors work. They watch, and in their mind they know I can do this better. I mean, according to their own thoughts. I don't think like that. I really just try my very best.
I don't think, Howard, I don't think they think they could do better. I think their whole job is to criticize things.
I know people who say it right.
But
they
they're full
think
of
they
shit.
could do better.
They're full of shit. That's the same as
well,
people
they are.
that, they say most people that teach can't do. Most people that criticize can't do either. So that's.
I miss New York so much. If
you could have made great movies, you would have gone and made it. I personally think I would have been a really good director, but until I do make something, I'm full of shit. So that's the way I look at it. I think that performances is all in the eye of the beholder. My favorite actor of all time is Gene Hackman because he was so natural. He was so, if he played a killer or if he played like your father, he was naturally great. He never looked like he was giving a performance. Yeah. Then there's also great performances of theatrical, a lot of British performers. You watch something like The Silence of the Lambs, that might be a little hammy to some people, but I love Anthony Hopkins' performance. And also Jodie Foster's is very dramatic pauses and all of that stuff that people have issues with, but I think they're great performances. Yeah. Now, my preference is always like the more natural, the more just subtle. The early Pacino, like when he did The Godfather and he's talking to his father, he's talking to Fredo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
or when you watch him in Dog Days Afternoon on Serpico, he was such an. The later Pacino was very dramatic and ooh-ah and all of that. So, but they're both really fun to watch. They're different.
You mentioned that there was a recent Pacino that you had given us, which I honestly, Ellen Barkin in Sea of Love, I just thought took me. I mean, literally just. I didn't, I was so used to seeing different types of performances of characters like that. And I had to say, she just rewrote that whole, she created I think a thoroughly unique character where it actually worked more towards the mystery of what, they wanted from the audience, like to not be prepared for any angle.
She
single-handedly, I think,
she was great in that film, and I think
amazing.
She was great in the Big Easy. She was great in the Big Easy.
And Big Easy, another one. It's another.
She's really, really underrated as an actress. I think she's really great. So
she was. But that's like an example of something which just took me by surprise because again, I'm not expecting anything. I don't even know where the story.
You're not looking
going.
for it even. So yeah. So.
No, but that But I would point at there's some people out there who really
it's like
transcend.
Good acting you don't notice, bad acting you notice, and it's like.
But bad acting could be fun too. Bad acting could be a lot of fun if you watch it.
It really depends on the genre too, because like with a comedy, sometimes you want that really over the top.
Exactly, or camp, which is again some directors.
Yeah, but that's different. That's
try
actually
so hard for deadpan.
They're intentionally doing that. The comedians are intentionally trying to be over the top. I'm talking about bad acting and sometimes bad movies are a lot of fun to watch. They're just like,
I never saw it yet. I'm still waiting.
Like Steel Justice. When Michael Cove is the best actor you have in a movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, the supporting characters in that movie are. I'm not talking about Ronnie Cox and the other people. I'm talking about the really, really smaller roles. None of those people could act. I think they run out of money, so they couldn't hire professional actors anymore because the Asian guy, his buddy, the young girl, all of them, they cannot act, and it's really, really funny, And that movie's insane. That movie has in the middle of it has a music video by Animotion in it. So.
When I get back east, we're gonna have fun. I like how you spend your time.
I'm jealous. I need to come up to New York. This next question is for Frank. This is kind of a good example of a higher level question about just how the industry works, and what is possible in terms of releasing things on physical. But Peter Young is asking, I do not stream. I would like to have timely DVD access to currently streaming TV series. Is this possible? Many of the current hit series do not seem to be available for DVD purchase.
Well, a lot of those are not. They're intentionally not available. Like Netflix would never license their really great TV shows. I don't think they will, because their whole thing is that they want to make sure you could only watch it on Netflix, or when they license it to HBO Max or somebody like that, that's where only place you're going to watch it. That's their whole thing, is that they don't want it to be. They don't want physical media. And I know that a lot of other. The only reason you have like some shows like Jack Reacher and other ones come out, and of course I'm not sure if the Marvel comic ones have come out, it's because there is like a huge demand for those where they're going to make a lot of money. When a show is streaming constantly and it's available everywhere else, they're not going to come out on disc because the sales are not going to be, first of all, that great because it's available everywhere, and. Second, the studio that owns them usually don't want to license them. I would love to release a lot more TV shows, but TV shows take a lot of work. If you put out something with like, let's say 7 seasons, 22 episodes, each season is like 11 movies that you have to remaster, and then commentaries and all those other things. It takes so much work to. That's why everything that I've released so far has been very short and small. So. But that's the main reason, is that they don't, Amazon Prime is not going to be licensing a lot of their TV shows.
I mean, Netflix has David Fincher movies that haven't been released. You know,
they have Coen Brothers,
and
Coen Brothers. They have
Buster
Adam Sandler
Scruggs
movies.
won an Academy Award. Where is that one? Like, no.
Adam Sandler movies and everything. The only ones that they've licensed is the ones the Criterion, the art house ones, the ones that won Oscars and stuff. So.
Well, we have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. This next question is for Howard. Bill asks, how did you get started doing commentaries? Was it a specific disc you were watching that made you go, I can do that?
I had started not with commentaries, but being a talking head for Arrow. A friend of mine would come to America to interview directors and whatnot for certain, you know, they give him a blanket slate of certain projects, and he would go, you know, New York, LA, and he would always grab me, and I would do some commentary stuff, not commentary, in these little short thing, just talking heads, and
for featurettes and stuff like that.
Featurettes, right? Exactly, and then I got a call from Nathaniel. That was like, I'm trying to think if I did. I had done a couple for Arrow. I had done Life Force with Douglas Smith, who was the guy who in Star Wars created the TIE fighters and
was that Arrow or was that Shout?
No, that was Arrow, but that's
you did it for the
like
UK
14
release.
years ago, and then they ported it over again just recently, I think, to a new release, and then Shout, I think, might have also ported it over, and then Imprint ported it over. So, but that's like, you know, one of like, you know how they are now, they're stacked. You have like 4 different audio commentaries going on a thing. I may have done that. I may have done another one or whatever. But I was mainly a talking head. And then Nathaniel asked me to do Trouble Man. And then it just started like, you know, every couple of weeks there'd be 2 or maybe 3 titles. And we would just get together and watch stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So
we've given people their first job so many times. I mean, Lee Gambin always credited us for us, and other people too, you know. So
Lee didn't do enough. I even internationally, I mean, it's, you start to realize, like, is there any more? You know, is there any?
You know what was the best thing about Lee was that I would offer him movies like, I've never seen it. I was like, we want to watch it? He was like, yeah, let me watch it. He watches it, and like 2 hours later, he's like, oh, I love to do this.
Yeah.
Like, he loved everything. He saw something really good in every film that he watched, and even if he wasn't. There's like a lot of stuff was off script, and he would just talk about the stuff and research, and he was really good at what he did. So unfortunately,
there's a guy that I see has been doing stuff for you lately, and he had a good podcast. I was only just introduced to it maybe about a year or so ago. Heath Holland, and I think he does some similar vibe of like, wow, like he's going to tackle this one, like no. Well, you don't even hear this mentioned in a bar, you know, like, but he's going to go, and so that I enjoy the perspective, you know, and the I guess the bravery of just trying to make people connect.
The only reason I'm doing this show is because of Heath, because Heath was the first person to kind of like get me out of like my shell and say, hey, can you come on my show? So I did Serial at Midnight. I did like 2-3 episodes with him, and then people at Kino was like, hey, maybe you should do your own thing. And I was like,
that's
great. I don't know.
See,
because I'm always been around being behind the camera. I don't want to be in front of the screen.
And now I'm like kind of.
Now 25 episodes later, I mean, you're a natural, clearly.
I've been enjoying every second of it, and Alicia is great. So I'm not, I may bitch and
I can't see you replaced too soon.
Well, I'm kind of thinking about doing something on my own too, but that's a whole different thing. But where I would just talk about other stuff and not just Kino related, you know. No politics, but you know. But
well, let's end on a quick and easy one that I think probably a lot of people are wondering. Justin asks Frank, "Is Death Wish 2 coming to 4K?"
No. I had said we will do it. The studio wanted to hold on to it, so they're probably going to put it out themselves. We have Death Wish 1 from, Vinegar Syndrome already put it out on 4K, so technically it's already been released. We were going to re-release it, so we would have 1, 2, and 3 in the market. But the studio wanted to hold on to it, so I think they're going to put out 2. I may release 4 on 4K, but only in SDR. But I'm not really sure if I'm going to do that or not. But I may do it. And
nice dummy deaths in that one.
Yes, you're going to love it. So, and then there's also. I mean, I guess I always kind of like confirm a title. This is very minor. It's like we have the Eddie Murphy Nutty Professor. We just added the sequel, The Clumps. So Nutty Professor 2 is also going to come out on 4K. So they're both going to come out on 4K. Hercules. Yeah. I think Eddie Murphy should have at least been nominated for an Oscar for that movie, for the first one. You know, the scene when he talks to his mom is heartbreaking. And he talks to his mom about being fat and overweight and all that stuff. And it's like he's playing his mom and it's him, but you don't even, you like get lost in the scene because it's like such a beautiful scene of son talking to his mom. And you completely forget that this Eddie Murphy playing both roles. And I think he was great in that movie. But unfortunately, comedies a lot of times don't get nominated. So,
well, I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you so much, Howard, for being on the show with us.
Thank you,
guys.
Let me ask Howard one last thing. Howard, have you ever acted?
Acted? Have I? Not in any major way. I probably wouldn't be able to remember.
Nothing on stage or anything like that? No.
Probably wouldn't be able to remember one line. I can't remember an hour ago, let alone one line.
Well, I did some acting in high school. In drama, I did some acting in high school on stage, and that's when I realized how much harder it was to do comedy than drama. Drama is easy; you just do the role, you do the scene. Comedy is all about hitting the notes. It's like playing music, and if you missed one note, the scene is not funny anymore.
Yeah,
so,
the film that I had done that people see is we're preparing it for hopefully a Blu-ray release. Keep your ears open. It's called Original Sins, and it was a comedy, and I had never attempted anything like that. I thought it was the most difficult thing to do is to hope that an actor can feel. I mean, because it's hard because you're like you were mentioning, Frank was mentioning before. It's like there's a tonality to comedy where if the actor doesn't, the director may want it broad and comic bookish, but then also there's ways that you're only going to get the laugh if people don't expect it. If it looks like awkward in some way, you don't expect. You're wondering, are they trying to be funny? Are they not? So there's a certain deadpan thing that is. It's very difficult, and it's hard. How do you ask an actor to do? And I was very, very fortunate with the performances in this little movie, and we were asked to come to Rome, Italy, to screen it, and then they had me back the next year. I remember Jean Rollin got sick, but they asked me to come back. It was the first feature in 15 years of the festival that sold out because of the controversy, whatever, about the comedy. But it turned out that I was surrounded by someone. When I came back the next year, it was terrifying to me because I thought they were going to, kill me, stone me or something. A group of people surrounded me and they go, "Are you Howard Berger?" Like they remembered my name. And I'm like, "Oh no," because I was a juror. I was asked to come back. Jean Rollin got sick, and they asked me to take his place as a juror. So I'm there, but I'm surrounded by these people, and I'm like, oh my God, they waited a year, now they're gonna throw stones at me, because if you've ever been there, boy, you sit in a movie and their crowds rip the theater down. They like throw things, they scream at the screen, like they get interactive. So I was terrified, and I guess they had elected one woman to come up to me who could speak English properly and not, And she said, "Are you?" I said, "Yeah, I am." "Oh no, who set you up to this?" And like, "We really liked your movie. Are you showing it this year?" I go, "No, I'm a juror." I said, "But thank you so much." If one performer got any aspect of that wrong, it would just have fallen flat, completely flat. So I really admire, because it has to be multiple visions working together. Yeah. It ain't gonna work. It's just not gonna work.
I totally relate. I'm an actor and a filmmaker, so.
All right,
and also,
you guys are so much braver than me. I don't know if I could ever do it.
Actors that could do both really great, like Bryan Cranston, who people forget that before Breaking Bad, he was in Malcolm. He was Malcolm's dad,
right?
And he's so then you look at Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels in Dumb and Dumber keeps up with Jim Carrey. How does he do it? I don't know, but he somehow holds his own with Jim Carrey, and he's a great dramatic actor. So I always have ton of respect for comedians, comedy actors, because I think it's so much harder. But anyway, I think we're running over time, so.
Yeah, we're definitely over. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for those who submitted your questions. Thank you, Howard, for joining us today and chatting with us about physical media and films and dummies and so much more. And thank you, Frank, as always, for everything you do to keep physical media alive. You can find some of the titles we discussed today, along with thousands of others, at kinolorber.com. That link is in the description below. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already, and be sure to follow us on social, and check back next month for another episode. So thank you, everybody.